We'd like to see you in Chicago.
We? Is that the collective we, or is that...
There are many people who would like to see you in Chicago.
But you don't want to see me in Chicago?
Certainly I do.
Marlon Brando, the man who changed acting forever. With roles in A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather, he became one of the greatest actors of all time. But Brando wasn't just a genius on-screen. Off-screen, he was unpredictable, rebellious, and often brutally honest. He clashed with directors, mocked fellow actors, and even turned Hollywood's biggest night into a protest. Today, we're diving into 6 feuds that defined Brando's stormy relationship with Hollywood. From Frank Sinatra to James Dean, from Charlton Heston to Burt Reynolds, even his own mentor Elia Kazan. And finally, his war with the Academy itself. This is the untold story of how Marlon Brando made enemies as easily as he made history. When Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra were cast together in Guys and Dolls back in 1955, Hollywood thought it was a dream pairing, 2 giants of their time sharing the screen. But in reality, it was a nightmare. Brando was a method actor through and through. He believed in total immersion, living inside the role and doing as many takes as it took to get the truth of the scene. Sinatra couldn't have been more different. He thought that kind of process was a waste of time. His motto was simple: hit the note, hit the line, do it in one take, and move on. That difference in style quickly turned personal. Sinatra started mocking Brando, calling him Mumbles for his quiet, mumbling delivery. And Brando didn't let it slide. He snapped back, famously calling Sinatra the world's biggest creep. The tension was explosive. On one occasion, Brando deliberately botched a scene just to force another take, infuriating Sinatra, who stormed off set. Crew members had to step in, keeping the two apart between takes. Imagine filming a musical where your leading men couldn't even stand to be in the same room. And the hostility didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. For years, Hollywood insiders whispered about the feud, with each side gathering loyal defenders. Sinatra would tell friends that Brando's method acting was nothing but pretentious nonsense. Brando, meanwhile, dismissed Sinatra as shallow, a singer who stumbled into acting without understanding the craft. What should have been a dream collaboration became a Hollywood cautionary tale. 2 legends, 2 egos, 1 unforgettable clash. James Dean worshipped Marlon Brando. He dressed like him, rode the same kind of motorcycle, even mimicked his mannerisms. To Dean, Brando wasn't just an actor, he was the blueprint for what it meant to be a rebel. But Brando didn't see it that way. Instead of feeling flattered, he was irritated. He reportedly told friends that James Dean was nothing more than a cheap imitation. Dean reached out more than once, hoping Brando might mentor him. But Brando flat out refused, brushing him off like an annoying fan rather than a rising star. It's ironic because both men went on to become cultural icons of rebellion, the brooding outsiders who broke Hollywood's traditional mold. On the surface, they were cut from the same cloth. But behind the scenes, Brando hated the idea of sharing the spotlight with someone he viewed as a knockoff. Their rivalry wasn't explosive like Brando's feud with Sinatra. There were no shouting matches on set, no crew members forced to intervene. It was quieter, more personal. And in some ways, that made it harsher. To James Dean, Brando was a hero, a living symbol of everything he wanted to be. But to Brando, Dean was just a shadow, a mirror reflecting back the uncomfortable truth that even legends don't like being copied. Dean's tragic death in 1955 froze him in time, forever young, forever compared to Brando. And maybe that's the cruelest twist of all. James Dean never stopped admiring Brando, while Brando never stopped resenting him. 2 icons linked forever, one by admiration, the other by disdain.
Charlton Heston and Marlon Brando were both Hollywood giants, but in almost every way, they stood on opposite sides of the screen and of life itself. Heston was the face of classic Hollywood heroism. He played Moses in the 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur in Ben-Hur, and stood for tradition, patriotism, and order. Brando, on the other hand, was the rebel, the method actor who broke rules, challenged directors, and brought raw emotion to the screen. The artistic clash was obvious. Brando once mocked Heston's acting style, quipping, "Moses can part the Red Sea, but he can't act his way out of a paper bag." For Brando, Heston represented the stiff, old-fashioned Hollywood he wanted to tear down. But the feud didn't stop with art. It got political. Heston became a symbol of conservative America, a supporter of traditional values, and later a high-profile figure in the NRA. Brando was the opposite, outspoken on civil rights, indigenous rights, and anti-establishment causes. He even boycotted the Oscars to make a statement. The two never had screaming matches on set like Brando and Sinatra, but their opposition was just as sharp. Each man embodied a different Hollywood, one clinging to tradition, the other demanding revolution. Insiders say Brando's disdain for Heston was less about the man and more about what he stood for. To Brando, Heston wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol of everything Brando wanted Hollywood to leave behind. And yet, in a twist of irony, both men became icons of their time. One is the face of classic epic cinema, the other as the rebel who changed acting forever. Their feud was quiet, but it was deep. A battle not just between two actors, but between two visions of what Hollywood should be. And in the end, their rivalry wasn't settled on screen, but in the legacy each man left behind. Elia Kazan was the man who made Marlon Brando a star. He directed A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront, the films that cemented Brando as Hollywood's most powerful new actor. To outsiders, they looked like the perfect duo, a director and an actor who brought the best in each other. But behind the scenes, their relationship cracked. The breaking point came in 1952, when Kazan testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee. In a controversial move, he named names, identifying fellow Hollywood figures as communists. For Brando, this was unforgivable. He believed in loyalty, in protecting your colleagues even when it cost you. Kazan's testimony was, to him, a betrayal of trust. Although Brando continued to work with Kazan, the respect was gone. He later admitted, "I lost all respect for him the day he spoke before that committee." What made it so bitter was the contradiction. Brando owed much of his early career to Kazan, but that debt couldn't outweigh the anger he felt towards someone he saw as selling out others to save himself. The final break came in 1999, when Kazan received a Lifetime Achievement Oscar. The room was divided. Some stood and applauded. Others sat in icy silence. Marlon Brando refused to attend. His absence was a statement in itself. What had once been a mentor and a protege became a story of loyalty broken. And in Hollywood, few betrayals cut deeper.
By the 1970s, a new kind of Hollywood star was on the rise. Burt Reynolds. Charming, handsome, and seemingly everywhere. Audiences loved him, but Marlon Brando? He despised him. Brando once told a reporter that Reynolds was the epitome of something that makes me want to throw up. For Brando, acting was sacred. It was about truth, pain, transformation. He believed an actor should live inside the character, even if it broke them. Reynolds, in Brando's eyes, represented the opposite. He was a movie star first, an actor second. Someone who coasted on his looks and charm instead of digging for real depth. The two never worked together, but their feud played out in interviews and industry gossip. Reynolds laughed off the insults, saying Brando was just jealous of his popularity. But to Brando, it wasn't about jealousy, it was about principle. He believed Hollywood was becoming plastic, fake, built on smiles instead of substance. And Reynolds, in Brando's mind, was the poster boy for that change. Their feud wasn't loud, but it was scathing. One represented the old guard of serious, tortured artistry,
the other the new wave of marketable Hollywood stardom. In the end, both became icons, but for very different reasons. Brando, the rebel genius. Reynolds, the charming superstar. Two paths, two legacies, forever divided. Brando's greatest feud wasn't with an actor. It was with Hollywood itself. In 1973, he won the Academy Award for The Godfather. It should have been a career-defining triumph. But instead, it became one of the most shocking moments in Oscar history. Brando refused to accept the award. Instead, he sent Native American activist Sacheen Littlefeather to the stage in his place. In front of a stunned audience, Littlefeather explained that Brando was rejecting the Oscar in protest of Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans in film. The reaction was explosive. Some in the crowd booed, others applauded. The moment was broadcast live to millions, making headlines worldwide. To Brando, it wasn't just about a single award. It was about calling out the industry he believed was corrupt, exploitative, and blind to its own failings. The Academy was furious. Many actors condemned the stunt, while others admired the courage it took to turn Hollywood's biggest stage into a protest. Brando knew he was burning bridges, but he didn't care. For him, the message mattered more than the trophy. It was the ultimate act of defiance, a declaration that Hollywood could celebrate him, but it could never control him. And in that moment, Marlon Brando transformed an Oscar into a weapon, not of fame, but of rebellion.
Marlon Brando was a genius, a rebel, and often his own worst enemy. His feuds weren't just about ego. They were about clashing visions of what Hollywood should be. With Sinatra, it was craft. With Dean, imitation. With Heston, politics. With Kazan, betrayal. With Reynolds, the meaning of stardom. And with the Academy, the fight for truth itself. Love him or hate him, Brando never played by the rules. And that's why, even today, he remains one of the most fascinating and controversial figures in Hollywood history. So what do you think? Was Brando a misunderstood visionary or just impossible to work with? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's biggest feuds, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories. Because sometimes the greatest drama in Hollywood never makes it onto the screen.